Thank you for joining another episode of Behind the Mic, powered by Revolt Podcast Network. I'm your host, Wise Grisette, podcast enthusiast and RPN community manager. Now, if you listen to the podcast, you know I just switched that up. You also know what I'm about to say as well, too. Follow us on Instagram and follow us on TikTok at Revolt Podcast Network, and follow us on Twitter. We are now on Twitter at Revolt Podcast. We have a website, y'all. Don't forget that part. You can visit us at listen.revolt.tv to learn more about our amazing podcast library. Now that you know a little bit about us, let's talk about our guest today. Now, our guest, you can find her podcast on that website and on Revolt Podcast Network. I have Nina here with me from the First Gens podcast. Nina, welcome to Behind the Mic.
Hey, thank you. Thanks for having me. I love that intro.
Thank you for joining us today. Now, Nina, first off, it was so great to meet you all at Revolt World. Tell us a little bit real quick about your time there this year.
Oh, yeah, we had a blast. Like, Revolt World was definitely a vibe. It was dope meeting you and meeting all the creators on the podcast, too. We definitely picked up some gems, as you know we do everywhere we go. So, yeah, it was good. It was a good time. And we met some really dope people out there, too.
Awesome. Thank you. Yes, that's our Super Bowl of the year. So we just want to make sure that all of our people, and people who end up vibing with us have a great time. So, you know, the podcast is called Behind the Mic, and we know a little bit about you from in front of the mic, but let's talk about who Nina is behind the mic. Talk about yourself for a bit.
Oh, okay. I ask people to do this on the podcast all the time, but when it comes to me, I'm like, I don't know. I don't want to brag. But yeah, so as I said, I'm Nina. I co-host a podcast called The First Gems with my 3 cousins. So that podcast is geared towards first generation millennials and creatives and trailblazers coming to drop gems, talk about their journey, and give insights into who they are. Me personally, my day-to-day 9 to 5, I'm a social media manager and project manager by day and a podcast host by night. I was born in LA and raised in LA, outside of LA. So I'm sure we're going to get into that later. But yeah, I like to travel. I love food. And I love anything self-care related. Like that's
Okay, so Nina, what's one of your go-to ways to unwind? I know people from LA are very like chill and laid back and stuff. What's your way to unwind?
I'm definitely someone who loves to unwind. I have multiple ways. I'd say the most feasible way is just going for a walk. Like if my mind ever feels clouded or anything, like walks really help rejuvenate me. It just gives me that time to think. It gives me that time to recharge, get some sun, get some vitamin D, and listen to music if I want to, and exercise too. So I would say one of the ways that I unwind is walking.
Okay, and I know you also record a podcast with your cousins, right? So what's something about your background and your upbringing with them helped shape the value of the podcast?
Oh, yeah. So definitely a lot. I would say more specifically as it pertains to all of us as a whole, we grew up together. So from the time when we were younger, we were adolescent, like we just have so many memories, so many insiders, which you'll hear on the podcast too. And just kind of growing up, going to family parties, turning on Cheetah Girls and doing our rendition of that. We were always some type of group. We always had some type of dance group or acting group or singing group or whatever we wanted to do. Like we always had some type of group that we formed, and it's beautiful to see us carry that into adulthood and make a brand out of it.
That's incredible. And I don't know how we skim past this, but the podcast is for first gens. For those that don't know, first generation Americans, right? So I don't know if you know, but I'm a first generation American. My family is from Barbados. But where, Nina, where are you and your cousins from and your people's from?
Oh, yeah. I don't know why I didn't touch on that, but we are Nigerian-American, and one of my cousins, she is Nigerian and South African. Yeah, American. So, yeah, we got all of that going on.
Yeah, for sure. What would you say is a personal milestone or achievement that you would say that you're most proud of?
I think I have a few, but I think the one that is just hidden lately is starting this brand. I'm really committed to it. I'm really passionate about it. And I'm very proud that we were able to take an idea and create something out of it, use that as a medium to connect with other people. I think what we're doing is so beautiful. And I'm grateful that Revolt Podcast Network has given us that opportunity to continue sharing our story as well as stories of others. So I would definitely, hats off, anything I've done, I would say like I'm really, really proud of what we're doing and what we've built with the Fresh Gems.
Yeah, no, for sure. And y'all social media presence is great. I'm gonna need to take some tips from you because I'm kind of like, I'm into social, but I'm still kind of like navigating my way around that. So we gotta tap in now. It's just it's a couple tips. Just a couple tips. Okay, so before we move on to our game, what's the one thing that you want people to know about you that they wouldn't get from listening to your podcast?
That they wouldn't get. Because I was supposed to be like, I'm so funny. But I feel like y'all hear it on the podcast a little bit. But one thing that y'all wouldn't know, I'm like an open book. I feel like I tell y'all I like to travel. I like to kiki. We be laughing in there. Family is everything to me. I say that on the podcast too. I don't know.
Okay, wait, let me ask it a different way then. What's one thing that you found out about your cousins on the podcast that you didn't know before?
Whoa. There's one thing. Okay, I would say not on the podcast, but working on the podcast. So it's not like anything got revealed in episode one, I think working on the podcast, just learning our individual skills and our working styles. Like there's some skills that they have that I'm like, I didn't know you could do this. What the heck? So that's been cool. Then also like just different working styles that we have. That's been interesting to discover too. Cause usually we're like outside of podcast stuff, we're in joking mode and like it's all like laughs and things like that. When you get professional with family, it just uncovers like a new world of getting to know them on a different level. So yeah.
That's very real. That's very real. All right, Nina, thank you for sharing that. Thank you. So we're diving into our game now. This game is going to be word association. 30 seconds on the clock. So starting in 3, 2, 1. Cancel culture.
Twitter.
Influencer trips.
Tulum.
Coachella.
Beyonce.
Art.
Kehinde Wiley.
Facebook.
Mark Zuckerberg.
All right, we are done. So, is there anything that you want to leave our audience with before you go?
Yeah, I could drop a gem for y'all. Yeah.
Please do. Very on brand.
Yes, very, very on brand. But yeah, I'll drop a gem for y'all. If you are a creative or somebody who is wanting to start a podcast, just start. I say this all the time. Like sometimes we get so caught up in our head trying to make things perfect, but the best thing you can do for yourself is just take that first step, and then everything else will just fall into place the way that it needs to. And with that, I would like to say, make sure that you follow, like, subscribe, The First Gems on all platforms. And you can catch us on Spotify, Apple, and YouTube. So all the places, and Revolt's website.
You know it. Now, Nina, where can they find you on socials?
Me? Oh, y'all want to follow me? I don't know. No, I'm kidding. Follow me on _ILY Nina, which is I love you, Nina. So, yeah.
Aw, very nice.
Mhm.
Very nice. Well, Nina, thank you so much for spending your afternoon. I know you're on the West Coast, your afternoon with me. I appreciate it. Thank you for joining us, audience members. We're going to break the third wall for a second. Thank y'all for joining us, audience members, for another episode of Behind the Mic, powered by Revolt Podcast Network. I'm your host, Wise Grisette. You can follow me on the socials at The Real Wise, WIZE. And I'll see you on another episode of Behind the Mic.